Hundreds dead and millions on high alert. The impact of deadly floods and landslides across Southeast Asia.
South Asia is facing some of the worst floods the region's seen in years. Hundreds are known to have died.
Officials in southern Thailand are starting to assess the damage from huge flooding, which has left more than 80 people dead, with dozens still unaccounted for. More than 3 million people have been affected by the heaviest rains to hit the area in 300 years. Water has started to subside in the worst-hit areas, but local officials say it could take years for some towns to recover. According to Save the Children, around 400,000 children have been impacted and in need of support. Flooding has also impacted other countries in the region. At least 69 people have been killed on the Indonesian island of Sumatra after heavy rains caused flash flooding and landslides. Rescue workers are still trying to assess some of the worst-hit areas, with dozens still missing. Sri Lanka has also been hit by major flooding and landslides. At least 40 people have been killed and 10 others injured this week. Most of the deaths occurred in the tea-growing district of Badulla, where 21 people were buried alive when mountain slopes crashed into their homes.
Cyclones and monsoon rains have claimed scores of lives across Southeast Asia, with flooding and landslides submerging and destroying buildings. Some areas are suffering the worst flooding they've seen in years, with the extreme weather affecting millions across the region. Floods in Thailand killed more than 140 people, while heavy rains in Indonesia and the Philippines have brought widespread disruption. Now, another tropical storm called Cyclone Ditwa has made landfall in Sri Lanka, bringing powerful winds and triggering more flooding and landslides. Here's Neil Connery.
Clinging on for life in the face of torrents of floodwater. A palm tree is all that's kept this man alive until rescuers reach him. Further along, they find another survivor on Indonesia's Sumatra island amid the flash floods which have struck. Through the night, rescue teams managed to reach some of those stranded on rooftops, terrified children among these survivors. Daylight brought home what had been lost. Officials say more than 3,200 homes and buildings were swept away, the death toll rising as the waters recede. I heard a roaring sound that made me run outside, Fari says. I shouted to warn others. I saw the floodwater sweeping away the surrounding houses. The force of the monsoon rains from tropical cyclone Senya carved a lethal path of destruction. Cars and trucks picked up and tossed aside. Some of the thousands of families left homeless have found temporary refuge in government shelters. I was putting my daughter to sleep, Linga says, when I heard a huge noise. Everyone ran from their homes. The water came so fast, we fled into the fields. Forecasters say the heavy rains show little sign of abating in the coming days. Neil Connery, ITV News.
Southeast Asia is facing some of the worst floods the region's seen in years, with millions impacted across Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam and Thailand. Hundreds of people are now known to have died in flooding which struck this week. Well, the Indonesian island of Sumatra was the worst affected place. Rescue services there are struggling to cope as roads and communications infrastructure has been severely damaged by heavy rain. Officials say at least 174 people have been killed, with nearly 80 more missing. Well, the authorities in Thailand say tens of thousands of residents need to be evacuated, and there are reports of the morgues being full. As receding floodwaters allow a clearer picture of the disaster, the number of people killed there rose to at least 145. That's across the country's south, from a government spokesperson. And neighbouring South Asia is also struggling with extreme weather. In Sri Lanka, at least 56 people have died and 21 remain missing. That's after heavy rains wreaked havoc on the island this week. 21 people were killed in the central tea-growing district of Badulla after a landslide crashed onto their homes overnight. And Cyclone Ditwa brushed the island nation's eastern coast on Friday, bringing with it more rains. So what's behind all this devastation in the region? Well, let's take a look at satellite images obtained by BBC Verify. They show a rare tropical cyclone cluster of 3 storms simultaneously forming over the Bay of Bengal, Malacca Strait and the South China Sea. Well, the darkest red spots in the imagery indicate the heaviest rainfall of more than 53 millimetres per hour. Cyclone Senya, which is currently wedged between Malaysia and Indonesia, continues to generate intense thunderstorms in the region. Meanwhile, Cyclone Koto in the South China Sea seems to have weakened thunderstorms carried by Cyclone Ditwa, which we mentioned just then in the southwest Bay of Bengal. expected to move towards southern India now on the 30th of November. Well, I've been speaking to Dr. Mahesh Gunasekara. He's the Secretary General of the Sri Lankan Red Cross. He says the situation on the ground is extremely challenging.
Our people have been really struggling to provide relief for the people. Even all this, we have teams in place in all the districts which has been badly affected. But from headquarters in Colombo, we have been really struggling to get our relief out to all this badly affected district as described. So relief have been already with the relief items which they are having stationed in their district officers. Really, they have been distributing and providing relief to the people who have been.
And what sort of relief are you providing to people? Is it that people's homes are being washed away? Is it that people don't have hot meals? What's the biggest need at the moment for people?
There are plenty really. At the moment, we have been providing some support to evacuating people from because our last few days really we have been really continuously struggling with the floodwaters. Now at the moment we are supporting evacuate people from capital and the adjoining districts. Then we have been providing first aid and providing medical care for people who have been already affected by the flood, and quite a lot of people have been in the camps, so the providing support in camps. Then in addition, we have a major problem with drinking water now. So that's something what we have been looking into now. So now to get a clear picture, we also really doesn't have because the communication infrastructure has been broken down.
Of
no
course,
electricity.
yeah. Phone lines go down, internet goes down, so it's really hard to get a sense. It's not usual, is it, for Sri Lanka to have cyclones of this severity, even though it is cyclone season. Do you think the country is prepared enough then?
I don't think country is prepared enough because it's not a very usual thing for us to have really. We have been slightly affected with cyclones which are happening in the Bay of Bengal, but we are not being prepared enough as well to face a situation like this. This is very bit unprecedented for us who have been involved in this providing relief for last many years.
So it's really challenging.
Very, very, very challenging at the moment.